Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the grey. Today's video is a Black Library review. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at one of the many publications brought out by Black Library and giving you our thoughts on the book, audio drama, whatever it happens to be. Now, I will say that we will try to keep this review to as spoiler free as possible, though there will obviously be points where we talk about things happening in the book. We will try to keep away from saying any of the major plot points, so you can go and read this book for yourself. We'll just give you our thoughts on whether or not we think it is something you may be interested in. So we'll use this video to instruct you on maybe is this sort of going to be a book that you would like to see. With that all said and out the way, let's get cracking on. Let's talk a little bit about the book that we have reviewed this time. In today's Black Library review, we're going to be checking out the Successors. Now, this is a Space Marine short story anthology. It's made up of 13 different stories by a bunch of different authors, about 10 different chapters, I believe. Now, we'll go through talking about each of these in turn. I'm not going to give an overall because they are short stories. You know, they're only, each of them runs about from half an hour to an hour and a bit, I think is the longest one on an audio version. But these are the lists of short stories and who wrote them. So we have one about The Exorcist called The Empty Place by Graham McNeill, Soul Drinkers, The Phalange Ascendancy by Ben Counter, Flesh Terrors Disgrace by Chris Forrester, The Emperor's Spears, The First Primaris by Aaron Dembski-Bowden, Carcharodons, The Last Planet by Eduardo Albert, Mortifactors, Legacy of Soul by Chris Forrester. We have Wolfspear, The Wolves of Raukos by Guy Haley, Angel's Penitent, The Sins of My Brother by Peter Fairharvey, Crimson Fists, A Patience Killed by Gary Kloster, Black Dragons, Bless the Curse by Callum Davis, Consecrators, Living Relics by David Guymer, Iron Lords, Iron Watch by Callum Davis, and Emperor Spears, Son of the Stormworld by Aaron Dembski-Bowden. A variety of these are performed by Andrew Wincott, John Banks, Richard Reed, and Kelly Houghton in a variety of different stories across. All of them performed really great. I think there's some really good readings in all of this. I especially enjoy Kelly Houghton's ones, of which she does both the Emperor Spears, because I instantly recognize that character from one of my favorite Space Marine stories of late. But with that all said, let's get cracking on into the review and talk about this book a bit more in detail. Alright, and setting the scene for this story. So, like I said, this is a set of Space Marine short stories. Now, in general, I think all these stories are doing one of three things. First of all, they're either getting us preceding events to stories that have been released in recent Black Library publications. This is most apparent, I would say, in the Carcharodons, The Last Planet by Eduardo Albert, which sort of helps give us some idea of setting up the scene for their story that he released last year. We've got a review of that one up. We get some extra end credit scenes, if you sort of get what I mean by that, you know, some extra little afters. This is definitely the case with the two Emperor's Spears stories from Aaron Dembski-Bowden, or we just simply get some stories updating us on how these factions are going in modern Warhammer 40k. Things like Black Dragons, Bless the Curse is definitely one of these where it's like updating us. I remember reading The Death of Antagonist back in the day. Boy, that was fantastic, a story. And so now we're just getting to see how the Black Dragons are in the modern universe. And a lot of these stories just generally fit one of those three, or they're just a random short story. But most of them, I think, fit into those three sort of categories. And it's really nice just seeing a lot of these chapters updated. The Crimson Fist was another really cool one. Seeing them updated and seeing how they're sort of acting in modern 40k was nice as well. And so the book's purpose for a lot of these short stories, we see a look at Primaris Marine integration into current Space Marine chapters. We see this with the Crimson Fist, the Red Scorpions, the Flesh Terrors. A lot of those are definitely integration stories talking about the Primaris Marines coming into those chapters and how they're all sort of viewing it. Some are very different to others. In others, we see, you know, the creation of entire Space Marine chapters, or learning more about the history of newer chapters, especially ones like the Wolfspear is a great example of this. Or we see even those having new chapters created, but perhaps bringing back the legacy of an older chapter in the case of the Soul Drinkers being brought back to life, or in some of them, like the Black Dragons or the Crimson Fists, being brought back from the brink of annihilation thanks to the Primaris Marines. In general, this is the vast majority. There are a couple of stories that definitely don't focus on Primaris Marines. The Carcharodon story from Eduardo Albert definitely does not focus on Primaris Marines at all, but I would say the vast majority of these definitely do focus on that as a major part. And so, main characters. Now, normally we would talk about main characters in this, but I think it's worth talking about all the different chapters sort of explored in these stories. Because, you know, like I said, they're all sort of short, and while I guess the ones that are giving us end credit scenes or prequels to other stories, they definitely have characters of note that you would know from those other stories in there. You know, like the Empress Spears stories are all told by Anurada's point of view if you've read the Spear of the Empress story. But chapters explored, we have the Exorcist, who are a really interesting chapter. Literally, a Grey Knight successor is what it's thought to be. The Soul Drinkers, the Soul Drinker Omnibus is one of the old classics of Games Workshop's Black Library publications. They're being brought back, which is awesome. Flesh Terrors, everyone loves Gabriel Seth and his crazy madmen. The Emperor's Spears, a personal favourite of mine. Spear of the Emperor, I think, really made me fall in love with these tribalistic warrior lodge sort of space marines. Carcharodons is really cool. The Deep Dark Shark Hunters. The Mortifactors are a headhunter successor of the Ultramarine, so a rather barbaric Ultramarine successor. Wolfspear is one of the brand new Space Wolf successors. Angel's Penitent, formerly known as the Angels Resplendent, have such an interesting story to them of civil war. The Crimson Fist we all know from Rin's World. Black Dragons are this bunch of Space Marines that are supersized and so mutated. I mean, bless the curse. And that's a really interesting look. Consecrators are a Dark Angel successor that absolutely love relics. Used to love playing these guys and having one of the members of our kill team in the Deathwatch RPG run around in Thunder Armor. And then the Iron Lords, a Iron Hand successor that are keeping the Barghesi locked away from Tyranid hive fleets. And so what does change about our main characters, or in this case, the Space Marine chapters we have explored here? And I think a lot of this is down to how they sort of integrate with the new Primaris for a lot of them. For some of them, like the Wolfspear, it is meeting the Space Wolves. That is really what their story is all about. For others, it's setting up stories in the case of the Carcharodon story, or learning more about, but definitely a lot of this is really heavily focused on Primaris and looking at how the chapters can evolve over their integration and learning to accept the Primaris as brethren to them. What does this book do? Well, first of all, it's a great look at a ton of different Space Marine chapters in modern Warhammer 40k. Like I said, this is just great, just showing us and updating us on how a ton of these chapters are acting throughout the story, but also shows us a really good look at how different sort of chapters react to the Primaris Marines. How sort of, you know, Firstborn brothers look at other new Primaris Marines coming into their chapters. Another interesting thing it really does as well is it also shows us a really interesting look, I think, at Primaris Marines wanting to be accepted into the brotherhoods of either the chapters that they've been sent to as Unnumbered Sons, or indeed an interesting one with the Wolfspear wanting to be viewed as Sons of Russ. Like, successors of Space Wolves don't happen often. I think that's a really interesting story in that one, of them wanting to learn to be Space Wolves, or as they would say, and a more honourable way to say it, wanting to be Valka Threnrika. Who would like this book? Well, Space Marine fans, this is the book for you. I think, especially if you enjoyed, like me, a lot of the old Space Marine battle novels. I mean, I remember Rin's World, Death of Antagonists was definitely two of the ones I got really excited reading about Space Marines in this. For me, the only one missing was a personal favourite of mine, the Blood Drinkers. Would have been great to see Guy Haley maybe write about them from the Death of Integrity, because that was one of my favourites. But this was really, really fun. So, yeah, if you're a Space Marine fan, this is the book for you, just showing a great breadth of different Space Marine chapters really well. And so, in summary, a fun and interesting look into a bunch of different Space Marine chapters. The selection of short stories really does go a long way to something I truly do believe, that there is a Space Marine chapter out there for everyone. Whether heretic or loyalist, I think everyone has that Space Marine chapter they can find and like and enjoy, just based on how much difference there is between all these chapters. There is so, none of these short stories, besides obviously the ones about the same chapter, really feel like they're copy-paste of anything else. They've all got a unique flavour to them, just based on the main characters in it that are the different Space Marines of the different chapters, which just makes it really interesting. For me, it's hard to give this an overall rating, because there are definitely stories that are better than others in here, but I did enjoy them all. For me, I'm going to say definitely some standout favourites I really enjoyed. For me, probably, let's go, my top three would be The Wolves of Raukos by Guy Haley. It was a fantastic look into the Wolfspear. I really enjoyed Bless the Curse by Callum Davis. Once again, this just from the Space Marine battle novels was really fun to see, and also see some really cool things in there. And I would say I also really enjoyed I really enjoyed The Last Planet about the Carcharodons by Eduardo Albert. For me, that just set up and gave me a lot more insight into the novella that I read not too long ago, The Silent Hunters by him, about the Carcharodons. Really enjoyable all in all. Let us know what you thought if you've listened to this book. And so, that's the end of the video. Thank you all for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And drop us a comment down below letting us know what you enjoyed about the video. If you'd like to come help support the channel in another way, you can do so either by joining our Patreon or YouTube members, or grabbing some channel merch off our merch store on Teespring, which is on our YouTube store as well. You can also come chat with me and other members of our little community here and our Discord server, which is linked down in the video's description, along with the Patreon and YouTube members links. And as a special shout out to all those Patreons and YouTube members, we'd like to give them all a shout out. So thank you to our Patreons: Christian Weir, James Soren, Greenskins Gaming, AJC, Kenny Lowell, Outer and Shot First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Q Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, Anton Nilsson, JJ Austrian, Average Wargamer, Domir, Mark Harvey, James Cater, Derek and Giapi 390. And a special thank you to our YouTube members: Greenroost Gaming, Kenton Young, Chris Wallace, Ronya, Locke Lorick, The Johnny84, David Ellsworth, Revenar, Wolfric Nick, Broken Chef, Ariana Edwards, Sean Scott, Pink Nico Fire, and Robin Mankiller as well. Lastly, a special thanks to Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork for the channel, and to everyone who comes on the channel and helps us create everything we do. Thank you all for watching once again, everyone. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.